Hello and welcome back to the Age of Sunbros YouTube channel. This is Sir Shark Dad. And you already know, you clicked on the video. You know what you're looking at. This is the spotlight video in which we are continuing our coverage of giving a firmer understanding of each individual civilization. And this one's a bit tough because today it's France. And France is one of those where everybody says, play this one. It's the bread and butter civilization, and jack of all trades kind of civ. And so therefore, you want to do it justice. You want somebody who understands the intricacies of that. And it's a pretty tough one to cover. A lot of people play it. A lot of people have opinions. So I kind of combed through the friends list, and I found an incredibly intelligent and good-looking Australian who also happens to be the CEO of Age of Empires 3. And so I want to welcome onto the stage CEO of AoE3. How you doing, friend? And thanks for joining.
I'm doing very well. Glad to hear the how you're doing, the sort of normal Australian greeting there. Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. And I know that you've played a lot of France. I think you said you stepped away from France just because you played so much France, and then you came back to it.
Yep.
Because I was like, well, what's, can you lend your expertise? And I just want to know, like, if I'm brand new to just playing the game and I pick up France, if I say, I really just want to play France, like everybody says that I should play France, what would you say are its like biggest strengths and weaknesses? Like what would I need to know, like, getting into it?
Yeah, for sure. And I can probably ramble on here for a while, so interrupt me if I go sort of in too much depth for the segment. But
okay.
I think you sort of covered its identity pretty well in your overview. It's like since 2005, whenever the game came out, it has been that sort of really friendly civ to play. They sort of have a response to everything. They don't have any god awful matchups. Like, I know you've covered Russia in previous spotlights, and those sorts of civs just have matchups you load into, and it's you're just up against it. France just doesn't have anything like that.
Right.
I think the best way to describe it, and I think people that will load into sort of a France game having played Brits or Dutch or any of the, to be honest, new DE civs, is I think they just feel really seamless. Like I said, some civs you're sort of fighting for your life to squeeze in market techs and macro. Maybe you're building manners, deciding, do I build a bank now? Do I build a barracks to respond to potential pressure? France, it's just really straightforward to get all that in, I feel, and also have room for a response without sacrificing tempo or too much brain power, to be honest. So I think immediately sort of user friendliness. As you said, I think they're the most user friendly civ, put simply. And sort of on from that as well, I think they can execute just about any build order out there and execute it at a pretty good level. They have one of the better early Muscuss timings for Age 2 that can do well against a lot of civs. They can crossbow pike super smoothly. They can Musk or Huss semi-FF like really quickly and speedily. They can just straight FF and just have a solid eco with all these options and access to solid cards. And that's sort of not even covering sort of some of the quirky but very viable, fast industrials, the church card, which we'll cover later, even the native stuff, which they're, I think, since DE especially known for, they can be quite broken. Just options in every matchup, on every map, to be honest. I think I'll just move on from, I guess, this point into something a bit more specific. Is they don't boom like Brits or Dutch, how people conventionally, I guess, refer to booming.
Right.
It's sort of passive.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes into one of their core things that, I guess to a beginner, is they don't have normal villages. They have coureurs de bois, or CDBs, I'll call them, which cost 20% more but gather 20% faster, but and crucially only train 10% slower. You do some maths sort of there. Well, you don't even need to do the maths. You can see, you're just passively booming gradually because, by virtue of the gather rate you're getting with each settler versus the train time. So yeah, it's just brain dead. You just train villagers, which I think most newer players are capable of doing, but you're not spending actions per minute or APM building manners, balancing your eco versus military, etc. So yeah, and also, like I said, I'll ramble, so just interrupt me if you want me to.
No, this is good. This is really good.
Else. Yeah.
No, because I mean, good. And this is one of those big things too, where like people will play France and then they'll say, "Oh, there's a lot of like I have so many options," and
yes,
like they say, "Oh, I can do all these things," and then they find out that it's like you said, they don't boom conventionally. They don't do any of the other specific things in a sort of like conventional manner. And so like I found like when I was first playing France, like I'm like, oh, I'm going to have such a strong eco. I'm going to be able to play France. And then I lose my army and then it's over. And I'm like, what the heck happened? I never felt like they were covered very well.
Yeah. I mean, you sort of say that, but to be honest, you can sort of apply that to any civ, right? You take a big fight, you're not going to be in a good spot. But I think, and I guess this sort of hones in well to another point is, right, say you're France, say you're fighting a Russia or an Otto, guys who, particularly the lower ELOs, can be hard to sort of contend with when, there's stuff in your base early, there's Cossacks, there's whatever. But with France, you have just such a natural defender's advantage with these CDBs, because unlike normal villagers, they have range resist and 40% range resist, which I'll just emphasize to new players is insane, right? Like that's
right.
You do the math, that's essentially doubling the effective HP those guys have against range, right? So the common units you'll see in Age 2, the ones that are going to threaten your infrastructure, i.e. heavy infantry that have the siege that's going to do the damage to your base, they're borderline impossible to pick off the CDBs, and with some market upgrades, you have essentially a defensive unit that easily beats a musketeer one-on-one. I think they get something like 12 range damage and 300 HP with 40% range resist. And yeah, like I said, so it just makes it so much more manageable against that sort of aggression, and this certainly influences many matchups or build orders in France's favor, and therefore makes their transition into Age 3, which we'll get into, where they sort of want to be, where they really shine, much easier. Because if I'm at Russia or I'm at Otto, I just know off the bat that pushing into French base is going to be tough work, and I'm not going to have the success I'm going to have versus other civs that have normal villages. And yeah, I guess then to go into the military aspect of French, they have a really good roster of units and good upgrades available for those units.
Oh yeah.
Like their musks are nothing special, so that is something to consider. But they're musks, but they have really good skirmishers with all the upgrades. Pretty good dragoons and the best heavy cav, bar none in the game, which we'll get into in a bit, because I have a lot to say about the Cuirassier. So their fundamental composition options are very good. And I think last thing to note is in the late game, their military potential from having, because their villager count caps at 80, but essentially gathers like 100 vills. You just have 20 more population to play with for your military, which in a game of sort of diminishing returns in fights, having the bigger army can really snowball in your favor in any engagement. So that's obviously it's not every game you're going to get to that point, but it is certainly something that a thing up your sleeve for the late game. But yeah, I think that sort of covers the I guess strengths. I think just to summarize, like its flexibility, its ability to set the tempo in games with its early age up options, which are now very viable. The 12-10, which we can get into a little bit later, I think. And you sort of have to really just respect them in any age, because they can really mess you up in ways that maybe other civs can't. So yeah, and in terms of weaknesses, I think previously the weakness was, all right, they're the jack of all trades, but they're not the best at anything. And I think, and this is still true to an extent. So say you want to stay age 2 versus Brit and grind out a long age 2 game, you're going to get wrecked, right?
Yeah, not a good idea.
Brit will outboom you. Yeah, that's it. Like, Brit will outboom you if you let them. And they have better musketeers in age 2. They have good hussars. You do as well, to be fair. But yeah, so it's not to say that they're good at everything, so it's okay and you just play your game. You need to analyze the matchup. So I'll rephrase it. France is really good at initiating sort of any plan that is effective against the opponent. So I guess what that means is, all right, I'm playing this civ. Here's broadly how, what this civ's weak to, how you counter it. France has a good option for that. So of course it's about understanding the civ in front of you and acting accordingly. France just has options for everything in my view.
Okay, so I mean, this is one of the bigger, wider discussions that's beyond the scope of this video, but it sounds like France is a civ where like you kind of have to know the game, like you have to know how to play it, because you have to know various strategies in order to be effective. But once you do, you can be very effective. Yes. But you can't just bot the build into...
Correct. I think that's well articulated. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think you've put that very nicely, because there's some civs, for example, where you really can just bot a strat they're really good at. There's some infamous examples. Ottoman fast industrial with essentially you click age up, you click Spahi, you click big bombards. You're actually probably going to do well, to be honest, in 9 out of 10 of your games. Whereas France, you can semi-FF against semi-fast fortress with hussars against some civs. You're just going to get punished if you do that and don't do something else, I guess. So I think well articulated, to put it that way.
Sweet. Well, let's get into it. So I turned off all the sound. I just didn't want. I couldn't keep hearing the horse just constantly going off.
No, good op, I think.
So we have a test deck. As I tell any other guest on here, CEO, I treat this as your canvas. The goal here is you are going to create a 1v1 land deck, and we'll transform it into a water deck, but it's going to be a land deck for 1v1, and let's just imagine that I'm brand new to the game, and so you'll just walk me through your choices for each age, and then I will ask questions.
Yeah, for sure. I think, structurally, I guess we'll go age by age, and maybe we'll sort of have a, honorable mentions section for stuff you'd change up circumstantially.
Absolutely.
But, well, let's get off the bat in age. Let's get off the start point with age 1. I think, one of the best cards in the game the French have, and is absolute non-negotiable, is 3 CDBs. Which is, this card is literally a 3.75 age 1 villager card, right?
Yep.
Sorry, 3.6, because they gather 1.2 times faster. So, yeah, insane card, needs no further introduction. You'll be sending this as your first card in every single game.
Absolutely.
I think next option, and these are when it gets a bit more optional, but what I like to have in pretty much all of my decks is Pioneers.
Okay.
So this is, I think it's 65% increase, and I think as we were chatting about earlier, the CDBs are real tanky, real beefy, and with this card, it turns them into absolute tanks. It's great for defending in base if you're sort of in a game where you don't have the tempo and you're on the back foot, and there's the opponent's sort of constantly visiting your base. You'll lose less villagers. Obviously, they can fight back, but I think even if you have the map, right, and you're getting to, call it, I don't know, 12 to 15 minutes into the game, the hunts in base are dried up, you're getting out onto the map, it's getting a little bit dangerous. Having a clump of 10 CDBs on a hunt in the middle, and you're sort of skirmishing with your opponent, if you fall back to that group of CDBs and they have pioneers, and your opponent's trying to fight you, and they're just having to contend with 10 absolute insane units, essentially soaking damage in that fight. And even if you lose a bunch of CDBs in that fight, but it might not even matter, because if you've smashed your opponent's army because of it, then you just push on to win the game. So I love this card for that reason mainly. It really lets you have a point of difference in those sort of mid-game skirmishes. And I think the last two, given I've ranted a lot about that one, is Eco Theory, which is always an option, just a good solid later game card, boosts your economy everywhere. And don't put this one in, and we'll certainly touch on it later, but it's called Ancien Régime. Very interesting card, but we'll keep it to basics here. We'll get back onto this one. But for this is my 3 Age 1 cards in, call it 80% of my decks. And certainly first.
Got it. But as a clarification, you send Pioneers defensively, right? So
look, either, to be honest. It's certainly one of the cards I'm not sending every game. But yeah, the two circumstances are, one, I'm just really battling to hold. I might send that. Or two, it's getting to the mid game. We're both gooning, just skirmishing, trying to break each other. I think that is a great card to send, just so the CDBs can absorb damage in those skirmishes, which can be game defining, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you're more than allowed to talk about Ancien Regime if you want.
So I think how I had this in mind, we'll go through the standards and we'll have like.
Okay, then you want to go back. That's fine. Perfectly fine.
I reckon let's do that. Let's get on to
Age 2.
Age 2, I think. Let's get the standard ones out of the way, I reckon. So 4 CDBs, which is your conventional 5 villager card. Just a really strong card. Most civs have access to it, but really good. You'll be sending this in a lot of games. 700 wood, 700 coin. You'll be sending these early in Age 2 at some point to build out your infrastructure, to using the coin to mass up units, or conventionally you'll be using 700 coin to accelerate your age up into Age 3 when the time's right. The other sort of standard ones, I suppose, A crossbows, which to me is both a safety shipment if things are getting ugly. Maybe you're sort of just short of aging, but there's a big mass in your base, not allowing your villagers to gather. You messed up somewhere, etc. These guys will chase away a good amount of heavy infantry. Good one in there. 3 Hussar for sort of similar reasons. Just a good flexibility card if suddenly you realize you're going to be sticking it out in Age 2. Good for a cavalry switch and for that all-important snare on your opponent's units, which is a critical sort of mechanic in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And then last couple, Wilderness Warfare, unique card to France. Just a great card, right? You'll be making skirms in the game in Age 3, and a 20% HB buff is pretty much an Age 3 card worth of upgrade, right? Most conventional cards are 15%. And then you add on top of that the CDB and native unit HP bonus. Just a non-negotiable, right? I think the value is pretty clear. You're even hovering on it. Look how long the list is of stuff it does. It's a great card. I personally like both Cav upgrade cards. You won't necessarily be sending these in Age 2. Maybe in a prolonged one you might, but Cav HP and Cav attack, I just like them because, as we'll get on to, the Cav is such a draw card for France. So that's my Age 2 in most games.
It's the team one, right? They don't have a H2. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Correct. You've already got the HP in there, right? So attack and HP. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
I like those. I like both of those. And then Age 3, which, as we said, is where probably France shines in most games, and I'd say France have a big 4 Age 3 tempo shipments that are non-negotiable. So 8 skirms, 5 goons, 2 falcons, and 3 Cuirassiers. These will form the basis of your early Age 3 tempo, which is often, standard in 1v1s that tend to be a little more high tempo than, team games, for example. But yeah, as France, in general, you sort of are encouraging early Age 3 action because other civs might need time to get set up in Age 3, whereas France, most of your composition is going to be Age 3 shadow tech units, and you sort of generally want to be pushing the agenda in Age 3 with France. So these are non-negotiable for me. I think as France, you do often end up in skirmisher wars and, trying to constantly poke each other. So I really like the 10 Jaegers for a big power spike in that regard. They're just very strong units, and it's a good value shipment. You get 10 of them. I like that one, but not everyone will have that card. But I think that's mainly it for the military ones. Does that make sense, or did you have any sort of
I think
questions or things to add?
I think you should now talk about. I mean, they've been mentioned a couple of times. I think you should talk about them.
Let's do it. All right. So I think, again, we're talking standard games here. The standard MO for France is, you'll often start Skirm Goon, get into those skirmishes, get into those sort of Skirm Goon stalemates, and where France shines and looks to break that sort of stalemate, it's with the infamous 8 Cuirassier switch. So just to, I guess, go over the unit itself. So these guys are a heavy cavalry unit, like a hussar, except when you hit Age 3, they're an Age 3 unit. So they already have their Age 3 stats, and that's referred to as shadow taking for those that don't know. So a hussar, it's an Age 2 unit. You hit Age 3, you need to spend 400 resources to upgrade it. You're not able to build out of your stable while it's being upgraded, which again just hurts your tempo. None of that with these guys. They're there and ready to go. Then just to zoom in on those stats, they have call it 500 HP and 20% range resist, right? So you think of their conventional counters, dragoons, it takes them 9 shots just to kill 1 cuirassier. So they're just super tanky. And then the real point of difference is the splash damage they deal, which many will know is a really powerful feature in Age of Empires 3. So against any sort of meaningful mass of whatever unit it is, the splash, you can consider it as effectively doubling the damage per swing these guys do. But as splash, it's more valuable than simply dealing double damage to one unit. There's much less overkill when you're splashing. So this is, I think, especially for beginners, an important concept to understand is that of overkill and why splash is therefore so valuable. So, just to go back to basics and for a beginner audience, if you have a unit that deals, like a Cuirassier, 30 damage per swing, but the receiving unit has 31 hit points, it still takes 2 swings to kill that unit, right? And 29 damage of your next swing is wasted, right? So having that sort of lower base damage but spreading it across units is a really efficient feature as it reduces that wasted damage. So yeah, very, very strong shipment. And I mentioned the 8 queer switch to break sort of stalemates. It's, later on in Age 3, you'll be able to afford to produce 5 of them from your stable if you macroed pretty well, and you ship 3 at similar time, and then you have 8 of these guys, that we just explained are insanely powerful. It's a huge power spike and one that's, won me and lost me many, many games. And this is also why I like to include more than less cav upgrades in the deck. So given we're on the topic, let's add cav combat in there. Absolutely non-negotiable, upgrades both your HP and damage of your cav units. And then on the upgrades, I like Skirmisher Attack as well, which happens to be a team card, which is just a nice bonus for team games as well. Then the standard crates, 1k wood is really important for infrastructure, your upgrades, maybe getting another town center on the map if it's dragging later into the game, just a high value card. And 1k coin, This one will often be deployed to help you smash out some big batches before you're aiming to sort of win the game with a big push, or often used to macro into the fourth age, which we'll touch on imminently.
Yeah. Let's I also wanted to point out, like, we didn't talk about the cost, but it's 150. So like,
yes.
People will try to like get these guys out, and it's a massive like drag on the economy,
Yes.
like especially for a new player, and they're like, where are all my resources? And it's like, yeah, because you fielded 10 Cuirassier that are like, forget it.
Yeah, exactly. No, certainly, but even despite being 50% more expensive than Hussars, they are just so much better than 50% better than Hussars. Just that HP and that splash damage, it's just brutal.
Yeah, I tend to refer to them as like can openers, where they can they smash in, and they like because every army is going to try to protect its soft underbelly of its light infantry, whatever, its high damage, right, the artillery, whatever, and the Cuirassier is there to smash in and then rip that open if you can get them in mass and upgraded.
Exactly.
Super good.
They just smash anything they touch. Like, obviously, you don't strictly want them fighting against musketeers in even numbers and stuff like that, but just they just do well against anything they're hitting.
Yeah, especially if you have the time to give them if they have 3 cards at that point, and you're throwing them into something, it's insane. Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. All right.
Yeah.
H4.
Age 4. So, I feel like I'm being on about the positive, but they have such good Age 4 options beyond the standard ones. And given we're on the topic, 6 Cuirassiers is genuinely one of the best value shipments in the game. You said 300 resources each. That's 6 by 300, so 1800. That's better than your conventional 1600 resource shipment Age 4 card, which is the conventional, call it, value of those cards.
Right.
So, and to be honest, especially in Age 4 and later in the game, I really love cards that are great to pop onto your opponent, if that makes sense. Like, say, they're gathered around your town center or an outpost or whatever, they're sieging. They reckon they've sort of got you on the ropes, and all their units are there, dragoons, skirms, what have you. And then, six of these guys pop onto them and immediately start dealing splash damage. They will pretty much annihilate a serious mass of units before those units can even do anything. So I just love that about Cuirassiers and this card as well. Then the other, abnormally good card they have is the 4 Culverins. Most civilizations just have 3, so it's actually just a 33% better card than most civilizations have. And I think particularly, as you're progressing through the ELO brackets and where artillery battles and micro become much more influential on the outcome of games, it's just such a strong card. And 4 Culverins will one-shot, I think, every artillery in the game. Many opponents will also do big, Age 4 timing pushes that sort of hinge on heavy cannons. We spoke about earlier the infamous Ottoman fast industrial, and they're spamming, those ridiculous big bombards at you, and just having access to this card is just huge. You kill the big threat, which is the heavy cannons, bombards, etc., and then you're just left to fight on even terms with regular army. So good card. And then I think the 3 cards that not as interesting, but every deck for every civ available to them will have is the 2 factories, which are just passive gathering buildings which just absolutely supercharge your eco, and 2 heavy cannons, which, as we just said, are obviously game-winning units later in the game.
Okay, huge. All right, so this is, you guys saw how seamless that was as we just kind of marched through it. You're like, wow, there's so many options, and it's like, here, like, France is just like, it's been so tried and true, like it has been done to death, like of people who have explored and done the research on it. Like, it's not like a lot of other civs where I think have been figured out but are still being even like explored a little bit more. France has been like stretched and and is understood.
Yep.
Like for sure. Like there's tons of stuff out there. There's tons of stuff. But if we're gonna stick to the stock standard, there's a couple of choices here that CEO has made that are a little bit more curious, but like for the most part, it's pretty standard.
Yeah. Look, and obviously, caveat everything with saying this is my take on everything. I'm far from a professional ELO player, so keep that in mind. But I think this will get you pretty far in most brackets, I would have thought. And yeah, I think it makes sense then to get onto, I guess, honourable mentions, call it.
Sure.
Where we can explore some of those choices, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I guess given we're in Age 1 here, I think it makes sense to talk about the native cards.
Okay.
Because what people will probably notice as you've been scrolling through the deck is just a abnormal amount of native upgrades and native related cards that France have. That's one of the, since back in the day, being one of the defining aspects of the Civ is their native synergies, which is sort of a feature that's been turbocharged in DE, given how much stronger natives are nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly, so clearly there's the Age 1 upgrade. It's actually unusual to have an upgrade card in Age 1, but that's there. But the card I wanted to speak about is the Ancien Régime. So what this card does, it gives you like a native embassy wagon, and critically the ability to train these Bourbon natives, which in Age 2 are Bourbon musketeers. And what these guys are is basically musketeers on steroids. They have better base stats than a musketeer, but what sets them apart is the ridiculous charged attack that literally just does double damage, essentially. And the nature of combat in this game and most real-time strategy games is that the snowballing effect of having a bigger standing army means that if you've got a charged attack like this that wipes out 2 to 3 of your opponents, just musketeers or whatever unit it is early on, you're just going to end up so much better off in that early fight, and then your opponent's just completely on the back foot. And then from there, France can, what they'll commonly do is, your opponent's sort of gathering themselves, oh shit, my mass is gone, he's got these Bourbon musketeers roaming around, you sage up. Or, you can push the issue in Age 2 if you really want. Very strong, interesting tempo card. Also worth noting that 5 Bourbon musketeers with that charged attack will one-hit a villager even with greatcoats, I believe. Which is just a super scary thing to have them roaming around. You just have to be paying so much attention to your base or your villagers get sniped. It's something I've been meaning to actually play around with more, to be honest, as I do tend to play France quite conventional, but potentially a really strong card.
It's the text too for me. Yeah. It's the text, like, because I would use this in a semi-NFF fashion, whatever, and then like there's some builds out there that are kind of crazy where you can do Royal Dragoons fully upgraded and they can like also melee. Insane. Yeah, also they can. Insane. But the what was it? I think it's Royal Tax where you just get a ton of coin and it's such a good slingshot. Yep. Into like, I want to go H4, or like I want to do a mass in H3 or whatever, like, or I seen like doing a coin exchange to food for certain guard techs. Like obviously this is well beyond conventional, but the Ancien Regime is like sort of like one of those where we've increased the skill ceiling, so therefore you can get more out of France if you choose to go that way, but it's a higher skill ceiling.
Yeah, agree. And given we're on that, the I think it's Bourbon reforms that gives you it's essentially one of the very, very few ways in the game to exchange resources for XP.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's like basically a mercantilism, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it gets like because I think it's with time or something, it gives you more XP.
Right.
But yeah, it gets high real quick. And it seems expensive up front early when you might only give whatever 200 XP, but I'm always shocked how quickly it turns into like 1,000 XP, and at that XP value, it's a really, really efficient thing to buy. I don't know the value off the top of my head, call it 200 wood, 200 coin or something, but yeah, really insane thing as well. So yeah, fascinating and interesting card you can really make a build around. I think with the, I guess, native sort of aspects covered, the next in line cards would be advanced artillery in Age 3. Like DE is great, but it's certainly led to the proliferation of many, I guess, annoying turtley strats that can be hard to deal with or just downright frustrating. We've all dealt with Texas fort spams and, Portuguese with their bunch of town centers and shipping their forts early that just make it a pain in the ass to sort of deal with. Having access to mortars earlier in the game can just make such a difference. And especially as France, you're tending to go more skirm-goon composition, which is also very lacking in Siege. To explain what this card does, as you can see, it gives you a mortar, and you can train them in Age 3. They're usually an Age 4 unit, and great way to just deal with, in-base forts and stuff. You're just slowly chipping away at their base, while, they're just desperately trying to do what they want to do, whether it's Age 4, whatever turtle strategy they're doing, applies a lot of pressure. So good card for France, I think, in a lot of cases. I think then the next other interesting card is, and I think this is Age 2, sorry, we're a bit all over the place here, but the Church card, which I'd like to speak about, because I think France has one of the more interesting Church cards with the special grenadiers that it gives for quite cheap, because I believe they cost food, which is, by far
just
the most
food.
efficient resources together. Exactly. So, and with your CDBs, you can get that food very, very quickly. But yeah, so it gives you, there's 3 tiers of it, and 3 tiers of grenadiers with various upgrades they give. The last one being the Old Guards. Just an insane unit that sometimes I feel people just don't even know what to do against. They wreck infantry because they deal, siege damage with huge splash. It's like 4 splash or something. It's just insane. They wreck artillery by virtue of that siege damage. And to be honest, they just wreck anything that shoots at range because they have 60% range resist. So even Dragoons, sort of conventionally do all right against those kind of units, just get wrecked. They don't do anything. So really hand cav is your best bet. But to be honest, a handful of Dragoons in the back behind your Old Guard Grenadiers will do work, and meanwhile the Grenadiers are just wrecking anything that might harm your Dragoons. So yeah, it can certainly be a really overwhelming timing, whether you're sort of building around like a whole build around them, like the Church fast industrial, call it, getting there as soon as possible to pop those guys, or maybe you're in an Age 4 stalemate and these guys just completely open it up and allow you to do that game-winning push. Worth mentioning, obviously, they're Grenadiers, so they have a bunch of siege. They just absolutely go through buildings. They'll take a town center down in no time.
Yeah, that's a
really
good one.
Interesting card.
It is. It's a good one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's always just good to have. But yeah, it's Age 2, Age 3, Age 4 for each upgrade, and so there's builds that are all around it. You can feel free to look it up, and maybe we'll do a video with CEO to like talk more about like the middle guard FF or old guard FI. Those are things that exist. But cool card.
Yeah, no, it is a cool card, and to be honest, I won't dwell on the other cards too much, because it's things such as in Age 2, if you're doing a crossbow pike, you'll have 600 wood in there, maybe 600 coin as well. You'll just have obviously more resources in Age 2. Some of the Sans Suisse, I believe it's called, is actually a very underrated card for Age 2 and crossbow pike, and this is sort of a good time to get on this topic, because you probably know from my musings on the Discord, I love getting into the, I guess, nerd and math stuff, and not that this is advanced mathematics or anything, but it gives 10% HP, which in its own right is good, but the 0.1 armor on top of that is, by virtue of the math, 0.1 armor is essentially 10% HP buff of the prevailing HP of that unit.
Okay.
Whereas the percent bonuses that you see in cards such as this are giving 10% of the base Age 2 stats of that unit. So yeah, again, crossbowman starts with 100 HP. So no matter if you're in Age 4 or Age 5 and the crossbowman has, 200, 300 HP, that card will give it 10% of 100. So only 10, which isn't that interesting. But the 0.1 just means that it scales. So yeah, as we said, it's a 200 HP.
Okay, so that is going to wrap up Saint Suisse. I think that's pretty cool. If again, H2, if you're going to do like the bow pike kind of thing, which I would imagine is actually a little bit more of an advanced kind of play. It's a little bit more difficult on the micro. And so I think I was also very curious before we move on to other cards, if you would talk about why you didn't put Advanced Arsenal in this deck. I was curious about that, considering that I, like, at least for me personally, and I've seen it elsewhere, that if you're massing Skirm, like, you want that rifling tech,
Yeah, the advanced Advanced Arsenal, yes. Sorry, I was getting mixed up with cards here.
No, you're good.
I think, look, yeah, it's a good point I didn't add it so early in the, I guess, next in line list. It is certainly a card that is not wasted putting it in a deck. I just think that, to be honest, when I have it in my deck, I feel like I don't end up using it most games. I think it's as simple as it being a bit more of a late game card, but I'm sorry, I'll say for certain matchups, it should be in your baseline deck, right? So versus, for example, Brits, very, very musketeer focused composition a lot of the time. That should sort of tick, and obviously, you'll be having a few decks as a French player. You won't just have one deck. I think you'll be selecting the deck that has that card. I think you can sort of safely replace one of the more, I guess, call it marginal late game cards like Echo Theory in Age 1. But yeah, if I'm playing, say, what's another Skirm Goonie sieve, like Dutch, not strictly have it in there, to be honest. I know the upgrades that are in there are helpful for your Skirms, just their general damage and HP, but yeah, I just think in most games, to be honest, you're either won or lost before that card gets sent. I'm not sending it before 8 Skirms, 3 Cuirassiers, Falconets, the more conventional just percent upgrade cards. So yeah, that's my logic, but yeah, like I said, never wasted in a deck.
That's fair.
Down to preference.
That's fair. I misspoke. I remember some of these are just flat damage to just like gunpowder infantry or like whatever, but like the long infantry rifling, I believe, just comes stock standard to Arsenal. So like
that's true.
You're not like losing that. So
very true.
Okay. And you said you wanted to move on to Age 4 for some other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The screen stopped sharing, so that might just to.
Oh.
So I
okay.
can see what you're doing.
Yeah. Sure. No problem. Here, give me 1 second. And there you go, voila.
Very good. Yes, I'm not strictly seeing the game screen right now, but I'll talk through those cards. One is the Guy Proval systems, which is quite unique as an artillery-specific upgrade card, and quite a big upgrade. I think it's 20-25%, something like that. Can certainly give your artillery a point of difference in a very late game, but I'd say it's pretty situational.
Okay.
And another one that's, I think, especially probably going to attract the attention of newer players that might go, oh wow, that's really good, but again is situational, is the Thoroughbreds card, which reduces your cavalry cost for all your cav, so all of them, which is quite powerful by, I believe it's 15%. Which certainly, if it turns into a late game sort of spam fest, that is a very, very powerful card. But yeah, pretty situational. We were just talking about how in most games I feel like I'm not sending Advanced Arsenal. Those cards would even be further down the order than that card. So
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and just probably another choice is France. For some reason, gets a bunch of like an unusual amount of fort cards, right? I personally rarely have even one fort in my deck unless I'm doing some wacky build that'll involve, being in my base and defending, because I just think France in general have a lot of initiative as a civ, and you're often setting the pace of the game, and you'll be out on the map. And as I said, I'd rather pioneers than a fort and just fight amongst a group of my CDBs and use them defensively, rather than sort of fighting under a fort, which the fort can't move. But that's a choice, and that'll hinge on your play style. Forts can there's certainly been games where I'm like, damn, I wish I had a fort, but
Right.
can't have everything.
Right. No, makes sense, and it's a pretty popular choice, and so if somebody wants it in the deck, I'm sure we can. There's ways to swap that out. If they, like you said, it's up to the play style. But if people want to go ahead and take a screenshot of this 1v1 deck, and again, subject to change depending on preferences, and there's other builds out there, but for a good standard deck build, like from the CEO of AoE3 himself, like this is what you would be looking at. So could we edit this deck and add some water options to it? What would that look like?
For sure. Yeah, I'm still playing this game for probably decades at this point and still never quite adjusted well to water. But I think as France, you're generally not going to be the civ that's, being first on the water, I'd say. I believe they have access to schooners, correct me if I'm wrong. So you certainly can, and if you want to fish boom, but I think your emphasis as France is taking advantage of, your above average strength.
I don't think they have schooners,
economy.
actually.
They don't? Okay, there you go. They certainly didn't back in the day, and I didn't know if that had changed with DE or not. But so no schooners. So yeah, you're not really positioned to fish boom efficiently in any case. But so yeah, you're sort of second on the water and responding to water rather than taking initiative there. So yeah, you sort of want those warship cards. So 2 caravels in age 2, and then age 3 you can sort of pivot between the frigate and the 3 caravels. I think if you're going anti-water, probably want 3 caravels, to be honest. I believe 3 caravels defeats a frigate if microed properly.
It is the 4 pirate ships, not 3 caravel. You got a frigate or 4 pirate ships.
Yeah, okay. It shows how much I know about French water. But yeah, you'd go the frigate then. I'd say 4 pirate ships, paying for it, etc., is potentially overkill, but certainly an option because that's a huge power spike on the water. So leave that to personal choice. I'd say the frigate's probably more conventional.
Let's talk about what cards I need to switch out since you can see the deck now. So are we just switching out the team attack cards for our water play?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So certainly, because this deck is pretty loaded with upgrades, which I like. But yeah, certainly the team cav attack, because I think HP is more important for your heavy cav. Just in general, the nature of the unit. So yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you've done here, the skirmishes. Yep, correct. That's exactly as I would have done.
Okay. Gotcha.
To be honest. Yeah.
Then you wouldn't really take a fishing upgrade card over economic theory or anything like that in certain cases, or
no, just like it depends on the map, because clearly some maps are lower hunt, and the water certainly becomes quite an attractive option for when you can see you're running out of hunt, and obviously there's wood everywhere, and this is not just for France, this is for every civ. Might be an attractive sort of way to transition your economy rather than doing a huge outlay to get onto mills at that point. But yeah, like most of the maps in the competitive pool are pretty high land resource. So to be honest, I wouldn't. And yeah, I can see you're looking at the big battleship cards.
I love them. I love them. I always take them.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. They're certainly a choice. Yeah. Super situational for France, especially if I'm not the one that even has access to schooners. I personally wouldn't, but a playstyle and subjective choice.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, being able to squeeze water is good. It's cool. They're super cool. I like them a lot.
Cool.
But
they just go bang, bang, bang. Yeah, no, they're pretty sick.
okay, well, go ahead and take a picture of this for just you just want some water options, and go ahead. You just swap those out. I'm gonna take them out now, because we are gonna get ready to go into a skirmish match here, in which you are gonna walk me through. We're just gonna play on easy, especially because, and as a heads up, I have a new keyboard and new mouse, so I don't know how my hotkeys are gonna interact with any of that. So that's going to be kind of interesting. But we'll see. But let me get the sound on.
I'm surprised you even use hotkeys, to be honest.
You do not use hotkeys?
No, I use hotkeys.
I use hotkeys all over.
Very good.
But yeah.
That's a separate video.
What, the hotkey video? I'm gonna go ahead and lower this as well, and so then we'll be good to go. All right, cool. So cool. And then any map specifically you'd like to showcase, or is it?
Ooh. Yeah, I reckon all the competitive maps are fine. Arctic territories are standard-ish. No, that's a bit small. What do you reckon? Bohemia? Let's do Bohemia.
You want to do Bohemia?
Bohemia's fairly stock stand. Got it, it's bottom right there.
Oh, there you are. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Got a few chokes that make it a bit interesting. Not just.
Yeah, the holding the quadrants. Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, so exactly. You'll just walk us through. If you want to go ahead and tell me now, like, what it is we're going to be aiming to do here.
Yeah. So I understand the emphasis is on I guess standard, and I think, as you all know, I think the standard for France has actually shifted a bit lately. So I think what we'll aim to do as a default is like a 12-10 villager age up into a like Hussar semi-FF.
Okay.
So 12-10 being, you, instead of building a house with your starting wood, of which you get 200 as France or as most civs, you forego the house, you build a trading post off the bat to get that XP curve going, get your really powerful 3 CDB shipment in earlier. And as well, it's uniquely powerful for France because 12 CDBs is in reality 14.5 villages, whilst not having to build a house. It's very logical for France to do. I personally, to be honest, will aim for it in 9 out of 10 games. Even if you get unlucky with treasures, I think it works out. So yeah, let's aim for that.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. All right, let's see this. Let's see how quickly it loads. Okay, we got Russia. Oh, it matters too much.
No, that's right. But yeah, for the record, a scrumptious matchup for France. So yeah, splitting your guys, especially on food and wood. Yeah, there you go. I think you want to move your explorer towards the nearest trading post on this strategy because you want to get that built ASAP, and then just shift click your scout around the map and queue up a villager as soon as you can as well. Yeah, so there's a bit going on at the start with France. You got the native. Yep, heard that in. Very good.
Oh, see, it's missing the my letters.
I can see that. Yeah, the hotkeys make it hard. I believe it's
up here.
On your side here.
Or is it on my side here?
I believe this. Yeah, I believe this one's on your side. Regretting the map choice now, but
it's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. A nice thing to note about the French explorer is he builds trading posts a little bit faster than other explorers, so you can get your trading post up quicker, which makes all the difference, to get that critical first pass. But yeah, no, you've done a pretty good job here, herding stuff in. You got one right next to your TC, which is nice, and yeah, so you want to train 9, and you're not going to train any more than that.
Got it.
And as well, you've got a little wood treasure in your base. Let's hover over, see how much that is.
50 wood.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I think that's quite nice. So I reckon my rule of thumb here
Mm-hmm.
is if I get pretty early more than 50 or more wood in treasures, I will probably commit to building the house. So we were sort of focusing on other stuff here and you know, building stuff. So maybe let's not do it this time.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, if you see you've got that 50 wood in base, what I would do is immediately put, call it 3-4 of my CDBs onto wood, get up that 100 and then build the house. So that won't hurt your, call it, you know, age up time much at all. And it'll let you, because usually, to be honest, having 13 villages is the optimal amount for France. Balancing good age up time, not too much TC idle time. So yeah, but yeah, we won't do it on this occasion because we're doing other stuff.
Would you still go 12 in that case though, if you had the house?
No. So I'd build a house and I'd probably train a 13 because as you can see, we are idling a little bit here, which is you know, pretty normal. Yeah, we'll grab that as well. That'll be nice for our transition. We'll age up as well.
Sorry, all the hotkeys are missing, so I'm now like.
Yeah, no.
Oh, actually, here's a good point.
Yeah.
We should probably look at what our options are.
Yeah, so France is one of those civs with access to 400 wood, which is just a strong age up. It's high value. You'll want to do that 9 out of 10 times. Some of them can be interesting. 1 outpost and 200 coin if you're maybe doing an FF and you're expecting some some pressure rather. But yeah, you know, the logistician is pretty niche and not particularly necessary for France. Yeah,
okay.
You'll be going 400.
Yeah, quartermaster.
Pretty much all you can.
Yeah,
exactly.
99% of the time. Okay. All right.
It's just so powerful. Being the slowest gathering resource, that's why you'll always see wood crates in every single deck.
All right. So in the transition, what am I doing?
Yeah. So we've clicked up. Let's get all our guys pretty much except one onto wood. And what we want to do in transition is gather up for our market as quickly as possible. That'll be the first bit of infrastructure we put down in transition. So we didn't find any gold treasures, so let's stick to, once we've got 100, we've got 100 wood, there you go. Let's build our market.
We have a gold treasure here. Do that.
There you go, perfect.
All right, market.
Build our market. Yep. And then what we want to aim for is, oh god, what even is it? 50 wood plus 75 wood for hunting dogs and placer mines, and then another 25 wood in excess of that for steel traps when we age up. So I think we've got enough there, I believe. Yeah,
okay.
I think we've got plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm letting you walk me through it. I'm not going to try to jump ahead.
Oh, he's testing me. Yeah. No, we've got. Yeah, so we've overgathered here a bit, but that's all right. So yeah, let's queue up our market upgrades as well because we want those in ASAP. Yeah. Queue up placer mines as well because we'll be getting that. And then, yeah, you're sort of gathering your wood off the ground as well, putting a stable up as soon as possible because we're going to do a Hussar semi-FF. Yeah, it's amazing. It's only when you don't have them you realize like how.
Oh my god, yeah. Like I would have, like I would just, like I could control him, right, and then be pressing all my other keys, but because they're not set up, I'm like clicking back and forth everywhere like a crazy person.
Yeah. So let's build another house and and yeah, generally the split for Hussar at this point is, because we went 12, 10, 7 villages on food, 5 on coin. So I think we probably...
Okay, 7 and 5. All right.
On coin.
We'll fix it.
Yeah, though, we're a bit mismacroed here, so let's get those 2 guys near the TC onto coin as well. Yeah, nice. Let's queue up a Hussar.
And then, what shipments? We got 2 bank shipments at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, first will be in this build order 4 CDBs.
Okay.
Because that'll just, you know, power our eco, help us get the 5 Hussars out and the age up. with the 1210, notwithstanding, obviously, it's been a bit tricky here with that hotkeys and stuff. You might struggle to get 5 hussars. That's very normal. Getting 5 out on a 1210 is a pretty sensational display of macro, to be honest. Yeah, so we got 3. You'll get probably 3 to 4, and you'll usually you got still traps. There you go. So yeah, with these guys, we are going straight to the opponent's base to hassle him. So let's just step back from the, I guess, crazy macro micro that's going on here. The logic of this build with France and the 5 hussar semi, and other civs can do it as well, but I think France is just particularly crisp and seamless. Is you've got these 5 high HP units, and you want to just like be hassling your enemy economy with them. So against a good player, they've probably herded pretty well. You're unlikely to get a villager kill, but even just sort of your hussars being in their face around their TC, they're gonna have to garrison their villages. They're gonna have to ungarrison them, split them back up on their desired resource split. But they needed, they're gonna be losing track of stuff like shit. I had 4 vills on coin, 7 on food. I've got to redo that. They have to re-go that thought process every time your hussar are going in and idling them.
Okay.
Right. So you're taking up their APM to respond to that. So, and this works both ways. Even if they're sort of looking to pressure you, and they're queuing up musketeers or whatever else, if they have a forward base, you're just doing this, and you're going to be disrupting their musketeer batches, their military production, and again just taking up their attention. So it's actually, it's almost like offense is the best defense a bit here as well, even when they're being offensive. Or say it's a civ that likes to fast fortress, or like Spain.
Right.
At this point in the game, with the 1210, you are getting these units out really fast, right?
Right.
We won't use this as an example, but you are getting those units out fast. They won't have military out, and you're just going to be slowing down their FF because their villages are constantly have to going in and out of the TC. That's the rationale of the semi-FF, of the hussar semi-FF. And the reason we call it a semi-FF is usually you'll build, call it maybe 2 batches if we're going 700 wood, which we will. But you're looking to get up pretty quickly as well to fortress. And meanwhile, you're pretty much chilling out here because they're so occupied dealing with your annoying hussars, which, you also really don't want to lose, because the second those are gone, then they're free to, focus on you, and you're potentially a little bit, low on defense in the interim. But yeah, you're essentially messing with them and just getting up yourself is the sort of logic of this build.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's a flexible build as well. So if we unpause, so what we'll do next is send 700 wood.
Okay.
And this is the flexibility shipment, right? So, yep, we're raiding with them. Let's, yeah, obviously, just as with any civ, we're just focusing on maintaining villager production, keeping an eye on our macro. I reckon, yeah, given we're going 700, we'll aim for another batch of hussars. And something really powerful is if, and this is not for everyone and it's a little bit more advanced, but if you can have 2 groups of hussars raiding around, that's really powerful, because, they might be responding on one side of their base to a handful of hussars, and then suddenly you just go in with the other group. That's a really good thing, but yeah, that's a bit more advanced. So the 700 wood, let's talk about what you're doing with this.
Okay.
With this, you're building your barracks and your houses that you'll need, given, once we hit age 3, we're going to be pumping out units. Yeah, so yeah, let's act like those guys are just going in and out, annoying the economy. So with that barracks, it's, we'll be needing it anyway, because if say they just let us go to age 3 pretty smoothly, we'll be smashing out skirms with them. But say, you're playing, I don't know, a civ that's pressuring you, and you just need some musketeers to sort of fight it back and ruin their momentum a bit. You can do that as well, and then just age pretty promptly anyway. And again, with these sort of builds where you're looking to go fortress pretty quickly, yeah, you want your key infrastructure behind your town center. Because say we had built that stable right up forward, and say we were playing a civ that was pressuring us, they could just start sieging it. And there's, you know, not necessarily a whole bunch we can do about it.
Right.
Yeah, at this point we're done with hussars, so we want more guys on food. Because next up is going to be 700 coin, so we've already got more than enough coin. Let's get everyone onto food. Yeah. And then we send 700 coin. And yeah, that's the general rule with this stuff. You sort of want to be macroing towards that magic 300 coin number, because 300 plus your 700 is going to be what gets you up.
Yeah, we're well over, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's just as a food for thought for everybody. You don't want to, like you're saying, you don't want to necessarily be in a position where you are gathering so much that it's like, well, it kind of negates the point of the card, you know, for sure.
Exactly. And it's okay, you know, some games you're going to be busy. Oh yes, let's talk about this. So the age up. So again, France is one of the lucky civs that has access to, you know, the typical most powerful Fortress Age shipment. And new players might be tempted to look at the options here and you go, wow, 6 skirmishes, that's, you know, that's, what is it? I don't know, 800, 900 resources worth of units, or a covered wagon, you know, a whole nother town center. And that is true and situationally acceptable, but 9 out of 10 times you are going to want to go with the exiled prince guy. So the reason for that is in 1v1s especially, tempo is just everything, right? The longer you're aging up to age 3, during which you're just still in age 2, that's longer you're not pumping out superior age 3 units, right? Skirms, goons, cuirassiers, down, you know, those are the guys you want to be making at that point in time. So yeah, it's just worthwhile to go age up fast, and I believe it's, you might need to correct me here, 3 times faster.
I think it's
the exiled prince.
I don't know. I think I just thought it was like 1.5. I don't know. I actually don't know that.
It's quicker than that. I really notice it when I do it. But yeah, so yeah, you just want to get up to age 3 ASAP, and you want to just be pumping, you know, those units ASAP. And as well, so like, you know, I think the one that a lot of people, you know, newer players might look at especially is that TC wagon option. You know, if it's a passive game and your opponent is just not doing much, maybe it's Portuguese, they're just turtling up, whatever, you'd still rather get to age 3 sooner and just send 1,000 wood in that case. You can build 2 town centers with that, right? It's just all a matter of pace and timing. So yeah, I think that's about right. And obviously, you know, if we had access to hotkeys, we'd be constantly, you know, bothering them as we're aging up. We're in age 3, as we've said all along. It's a skirm goon civ, so yeah, you start pumping out those skirmishes and dragoons. These 2 units are both pretty equal in food and coin cost, so yeah, you want to split your villages accordingly, smashing those out. In a lot of matchups, you'll be starting as a card. I'll just let you allocate those, and then if we go to the deck, you'll probably be, obviously, you know, if you're under pressure, you need to respond to the composition accordingly. But most of the time, you'll probably start with 8 skirms, or in this build, because yes, skirmishes are just, you know, with their range, a great unit to just be applying pressure, right? Right. Say you're playing a defensive civ, you can, you know, sort of walk up to their base, poke in, maybe they have a few villagers sticking out. Yeah, very powerful. And then the dragoons are your anti-cav. And if we just pause quickly just to chat through the logic of, you know, skirm goon and how you're playing with skirm goon, right? Which is, you know, France's bread and butter a lot of the time. It's obviously an entirely ranged composition, and it's one where you will be doing a lot of kiting, of going back and forth, particularly if you're fighting, you know, a Musk Hussar, which is probably the other, call it, default composition. You know, you are abusing your skirmishers' superior range to their musketeers, you know, volleying off, killing one or two of those. They're going to sort of respond by coming forward at you. You just keep your skirmishers out of their range. You keep the dragoons in the background. Obviously, their hussars are quicker than your skirmishers. They'll catch up, at which point, you know, your dragoons fire on them. And dragoons do a lot of damage to hussars, so, you know, you'll be wiping them out pretty quickly. The disadvantage of skirmgoon as opposed to musk huss is it's much more micro intensive.
Right.
So musk huss is very much a right click. You know, you just want your hussar to be swarming everything, your musketeers just in the back shooting, assuming they've caught up. And this actually ties in nicely to what we were talking about overkill earlier. Say you've got, you know, call it 20 skirms, right? You know, you're poking in at a set of musketeers, and 20 skirms are shooting one musketeer. You've wasted 15 of those skirms damage, because I believe, you know, if it's an Age 2 musketeer, it takes 5 skirm shots, I believe. So it is important to, especially, you know, the pros will be able to have various control groups of different skirmishers targeting different things, but the easy sort of hack for this is the attack move, which I'm sure the channel's covered previously in a micro video or something like that. So obviously, you know, for the details of that, go scroll down the channel and find that video. But yeah, that's a hotkey that lets your units essentially attack the unit that's closer to them. So you'll have much more luck splitting your fire and not wasting damage that way. But yeah, hopefully, like we have here, you've got most of your hussars still alive and well. And that can become a real, you know, point of difference in early Age 3 fights as well. Just chucking those in, they're snaring, slowing down your opponent. Their skirmishers are probably wasting volleys, shooting at your hussars, especially if they're using attack move. Their skirms will just be shooting at the hussars because they're closer to their to their army,
right?
Than your skirms or goons are. But yeah, that's sort of the crux of that composition. You just want to be constantly prodding. As France, you'll have pretty good military production, getting pretty good batches of close to full skirms, full goons in early Age 3. You just want to be prodding, you know, especially if they've, you know, been a bit lazy with their herding. You just constantly poke in there, keep their villagers from hunting on those outlying herds. I think that's the name of the game with France in early Age 3. Like we said, you've got that access to that Cuirassier switch later on, which will be really powerful.
But yeah, so you put those in a little bit later.
Yeah,
rather
very
than
expensive. So yeah, you're not going to get full. Yeah, early on you really want to be most of the time prioritizing the skirmisher batches. You don't want to overbuild dragoons. But yeah, prioritizing the skirms, getting some dragoons out as well, clearly, to not be vulnerable to cav. And then yeah, later down the line, when, you know, maybe you're at, you know, 35 CDBs, and you can pump out a full batch of cuirassiers, that becomes more relevant then. But yeah, that's sort of the essence of France, I'd say.
And how do you feel about Huss Skirm? My favorite combo.
Yeah, well, Husker, yeah, it's certainly situational, like what that mix will be. And you'll, you know, as you play people on the ladder, you'll find people like to, you know, play certain ways. So I think the classic one I like to abuse sometimes is Germany. Because I think, again, not talking pro level here, but at solid ELOs, people just love to go skirm Ulan with Germany, because they think they sort of have enough Ulans to just overwhelm and act as anti-cav. War wagons are a bit of an awkward unit, so they don't tend to love building war wagons, and, you know, with that, maybe you might focus on, you know, you might ship 5 dragoons and focus on getting 5 cuirassiers out, right?
Right.
And, you know, you'll just annihilate. That's the direct counter to skirm Ulan, right? But to answer your point, which I realise I haven't done on hussars, I really don't see any point to training hussars in Age 3 as France. Important to keep your Age 2 ones alive as you can, but cuirassiers, they're just better. They are just too good a unit not to be building. But yeah, we'll teach Ivan a lesson here. Very good.
Yeah, even my attack move is busted right now.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
But yeah, and you ship them, but yeah, two falconets is, you know, the classic game-breaking shipment that just for a lot of the history of Age of Empires, it's been basically the civs that have access to that shipment are the good ones, and the ones that aren't are the bad ones, right?
Right.
But I think where especially newer players can go wrong is shipping it too early, especially with Skirm Goon, right? Because the thing about Skirm Goon, as we spoke about, is you want to be sort of microing back and edging back and taking, you know, marginal losses on your composition while, you know, killing your opponent's units. If you've got these super slow, clunky artillery in there, you're prevented from doing that, right?
Right.
So I think it depends, clearly. If they're shipping theirs early, you want to ship yours in response. But yeah, you want to make sure you have enough stuff to defend them. I think it's a mistake I make. You know, maybe I've got 5-10 dragoons, a bunch of skirms, and I'm like, oh, I need some siege. I'll ship my falconets, and then, you know, they've got a big mass of musk and huss, and they push me away, and they just take out my falconets for, you know, just a bad trade for me, right?
Right.
So I think that's something I'd emphasize.
But I mean, that you're right, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm just aging up for the fun of it, but like, you know, at this point, like, you know, the whole point is to just mass, keep pressure up, get your upgrades in, like you said, send in your cards. But it's like you're saying, it's that tempo, right? It's keep them on the back foot, so that way the CDB come in, do their thing. You know, you can send in pioneers to even have more defense, but it's all like you said, I'm dictating the terms. I'm going to move fast. I'm going to hit hard, and then eventually we mess up to such a degree that there's nothing you can do, or you can just age up.
No, exactly. And it's like we said, with France, you need to be acting accordingly to your matchup. Because, yeah, like, you know, if you're up against Brit, especially, and you just let them do their thing, they will smash you. They just get so much economy, so many vills. You know, you want to be pressing the agenda with them. So yeah, you know, Malta similar. It's very matchup dependent. But yeah, broadly, you want to be pushing the agenda, I think.
Absolutely. Get some outposts out here where you're gathering, send in pioneers so that they can't really raid you as well. But, it all works.
Well, this is a good example here. Actually, you were hovering over. You know, look at our clump of vills on the left there.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a lot
on them. Oh, we didn't talk about market upgrades, but you got them very good. You know, say, you know, we're having a skirmish with Russia here, and it's sort of 50-50, and we just fight here, and you know they're going to be having mainly range units, and these look at this, 40% range resist, 243 HP. They're going to soak so much damage away from your units, and you're just going to have such a good fight on that basis. And you may well just smash his army with minimal losses, and then you push on and win the game. Even if you lost half of these CDBs at that point, it doesn't matter, because you're going to win the game in the next 2 minutes. So, yeah, within reason. But yeah, I think this is a good example here of where you'd actually want to fight.
Yeah. And you know, think about, right, like if you do Ancien Regime and you send in the Bourbon Reforms, or if you get your Mercantile, and you're like, where do I fit Pioneers? It's like there. Like, that would be the reason. You know, that is a card that can have application throughout the game. It's just, don't think of things as just like just age one, right? So
no, exactly. Oh yeah, like with Pioneers, you'd rarely send that in, to be honest, even age 2, to be honest. So yeah, certainly don't think that because it's an age 1 card, it's an early game card necessarily. Same with Echo Theory, right? It's a very late game card. But yeah, no, it's a really seamless civ. I think it just plays super well. It has good options. But yeah, probably if I had to summarize the message here, it's what you articulated really well earlier on. It's you know your opponent's civ and know what bothers them and what's gonna not let them play the way they want. Like, you know, I think people encounter a lot of Brits on the ladder because they are, in my opinion, easily the strongest civ in the game. You know, 5 hussars disrupting their mana boom. You know, they just want to be out on the map, getting line of sight, building manas. If you've just got hussars patrolling around, making them doubt that they can do that, they're going to be, you know, their screen's going to be on their villages, their TC, and not, you know, on your TC, which with their units attacking you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So I will just add, that I obviously played super messy this one. Just like, again, like not having, like it's super weird, like just simply not having a setup and having to click around totally makes a difference. I don't know how. I don't know how people do that.
100% it does.
But you guys have all seen the French semi-FF. Like, there's no way that you're watching this video and have not seen the demonstration of a kind of a French semi-FF. And there could be other units that you can throw into the mix, as a CEO is saying. Think about, what your matchup is. Maybe you don't want to necessarily throw Huss into the mix, but there are other units that you can do a semi-FF with. Even the Ancien Regime card, if you include that, there's potential there. So definitely super flexible, and just consider your matchup, and watch a bunch of different videos on French semi-FF. It exists all over, and where you have various flavors of it. And we'll do some more once I get hotkeys back and set up, and I get the new PC in, because I'm getting a new computer finally. It is we can do some more videos on it. But with that being said, I wanted to thank you for your time, for coming on here and teaching us all about France. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And really happy to be able to contribute some small way into this game that we all love. And as I've said on the Discord, we're not getting the support we want anymore from World's Edge, but we got to take it into our own hands and keep being welcoming to new players. And I think these guys are a great way to do that. So I appreciate your work as well.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. But, again, if you guys are interested in what we're putting out here, feel free, like, subscribe, leave your comments. But more importantly, join the Discord, so where you will see CEO of AoE3 there and hovering around. Obviously from Australia, so weird hours if you're in the United States. But for the most part, he is a very lively and talkative member who is more than happy to engage in a thorough discussion or help you out. And if you ever need somebody to just sit and play, go through skirmishes, review your gameplay footage, we are more than happy to do that. We just want to make sure, and all of it is free, by the way, there's no charge. So, we just want to be as helpful of the community as we can be. But we hope that this video finds you and it makes your day, helps you out, and introduces you to France. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one.